Today I got a PS5 DIY repair that did not go as planned. So the fan connector here has been torn completely off of the motherboard. So I'm glad that they still have this piece right here, because we're going to need that. So what we're going to have to do is reattach this thing. These, you've got to pull them apart without putting a lot of stress on this piece right here. So I'll show you a good way to unplug that. And meanwhile, I am going to take the motherboard out. We will bypass the whole teardown process, because that's not what this video is about. So usually these shouldn't give you too much trouble. What you do want to make sure of, though, is that you're kind of grabbing the base here where the plastic is and just kind of very gently pulling. I know you can't really see that, but let's see if we can get a better angle here. So if you grab the sides of the plastic down in here and get a good grip and just kind of very gently pull up, if you wiggle it back and forth, you don't want to go very far with it. But if you want to be a little safer, just get a pair of needle nose pliers and grip this here, and you just lift it straight up. Shouldn't take a lot of force, and you shouldn't have to squeeze very hard, because there's always a potential of damaging the connector. But this should come straight up just like that. So I don't know, I suspect that most of the time people are just doing a lot of wiggling there that's putting stress on the inside of that thing. But you really shouldn't have to struggle with this too much, and if you do, just ask yourself why you're pulling so hard, because it shouldn't take a lot of effort to remove this. Now, these wires are relatively strong. I don't recommend you pull by them. I think technically you could, but I feel a lot better about getting the plastic down here in the bottom. And if you can see, there's kind of a ridge on the edge there, so you can get underneath that with your fingernails or with your needle nose pliers or something similar, and you'll have a much better experience, in my opinion. But I gotta say that this is by far not the worst situation I've seen. You can tell that we still got our anchor points intact. We'll just have to put some new solder there. These traces tend to get torn up, obviously. They're going to be down here on the bottom, which we'll just clean this up off of the old connector. We'll just take all this stuff off, and we don't really have to worry too much. This is just ground right here in the center, and then when we set this down, we'll scrape away some of the surface here and here so that we can run a jumper or solder it directly. In any case, make sure that is connected. Oh, I got it backwards. There we go. Okay, so we are going to want to have our ground right here, and then this one in the center, I'm sorry, this top one here is going to be interesting, because what we're going to need to do is extend this over here, because it's going to sit on top of it. So we're going to rebuild this pad. This I'm not going to worry about too much, because that's just ground. We can connect it there. And then over here, same thing. We can just put this back down and then run a trace from here over to there. So again, not the worst situation I've seen when it comes to these. I'm going to spin it around here just to make it easier to work with. That's the plan anyways. Alright. So yeah, only having to build one pad really here. That is kind of nice. Right, so to fill this gap, I'm going to use, that's just a little wider than I need, but I think that'll work. We're going to use some solder wick, And I'm going to credit the coder for this idea, because I saw him do a PS4 like this quite a ways back, and if you're interested in game console repair, you should definitely check out his channel. He's a pretty bright dude. Okay, so we are going to put this right here, and I think we'll cut it afterwards. Or maybe I'll just cut it right now. Let's see. I think we can just chop it right here. No, that didn't work. Better scissors. Yeah, I think we'll cut it afterwards. Otherwise it's going to splinter. Or at least can make it a solid piece of metal with some solder. But you know what? I'm just going to set it down and cut it after the fact. Okay. I'll get my good tweezers. Better tweezers. Okay, I think that's going to work. Let's see if this sucker's going to sit down flat by the time we get done with it. That is the question. Oops. Alright, you get off of there. Right. Just add a little solder on there, leaded solder, hopefully to make things easier. Let me see if this is going to sit down. And the reason I think that it should is because these pins should have some flexibility, but we'll find out right now. Get this to go straight. Yeah, I think we'll be okay. But I could be wrong. Let's see. Yeah, it's going to make everything too high, isn't it? Gosh darn it. Alright, that's not going to work. We'll have to move this back a bit. Somehow I picture this working a lot better than it does. Really got to get that thing out of the way. Okay, let's try this. I think if we're flush on the board, we should be able to make this stuff connect. Although I don't want this This wick's just slightly wider than I'd like it to be. I'm going to trim this. What the hell. Now that we've got it all solidified, I'm going to make it just a little more narrow. I don't know if you can probably see that. Let's do it this way. Otherwise you're not going to be able to see what I'm talking about here. Alright, so we'll chop this down a hair. What is that crap? Okay. This is already getting all gunked up. Tell you what, let's take this solder off on the other hand. This is easier, but it's actually slightly different than the way I usually do it. So alright, let's see how that's looking. Oh, it's still going to make it kind of sit up there, isn't it? What is going on here? Alright, I think this should do the trick, however. I wish I could turn this around so that you could see better. But the way this board's designed, oh, actually, let's see if we can do that. Problem is the power supply pins. Alright, how's that? If only I were left-handed, this would be so much easier. Okay, so I think if we go here, we should be fine. Famous last words. He's gonna flex. I might have to bend these down here. That's alright. Let's get this thing installed. And how are you going to be able to see the other side? I don't know. Answer to that. Okay, this side. Probably should have pre-soldered that one too. See if we can make it work. No, that is not. Oh, there we go. Alright. Yeah, should have left the solder on there. Alright. flux. Alright, so add this here. Alright, let's see if that will reach. Okay, just one side. And am I off by that much? Okay. A little more flux. There we go. Alright, so that side's down. This side's good. I wouldn't recommend being too rough with it, but you're not supposed to unplug your fan very often. But this is pretty solid. So, clean this up here. That could look a little better. Let's smooth that out a bit. Alright, that's a little better. Nice and shiny. And just one more look at the other side. Alright, we're good over here too. We just need to clean it up a bit. Alright, so now we've got this thing anchored pretty well. And there is a little stray flux here and there, but we'll clean that up later. This is nice and solid. So now we need to connect everything over here. Okay, the one on the left will be easy. We may have to run a bit of a jumper here. And then this pin, and maybe the same thing. We'll see. Either way, not a big deal. We don't need a ton of anything there. Let's see. Let's get this one. Alright, so that's good, and we want to just get rid of this excess. X-Acto knife would probably be better, but there's nothing under here but ground, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Oh, went out of focus there. Alright, so that's good to go. If you're worried, you can put solder mask, but I wouldn't bother. Alright, and this, we need a little heavier wire here, so I'll go grab my HDMI style jumper wire. This is going to be 34 AWG. Use this a lot for things that need a little heavier connection. This is insulated, so we're going to burn off the outer enamel so that this can conduct. Actually, yeah, we'll go here, right on top, like so. I know I had the fan on there, but what I was saying is that I did have to burn off the insulation on this wire, because it will not conduct as is. Now, question is whether or not we need to solder mask this, or can we just get lucky and get everything to stay in place. Probably end up adding something on here in a second. Let's do that. Okay, so can we just go, let's see, we'll cut this to size first, or close to it. Now the thing is, as I go to apply this to the board, it's going to liquefy everything, and then good chance it's just going to slip off there. So I'm going to give it a shot though, because if we hold this in place, I think maybe we'll be okay. Let's see. You need to stay like that. Okay, and you need to stay here. And yep, and that will do it. So all we need to do now is clean this up, and I will spare you the majority of that as well. We'll get this thing back together and make sure our fan is working. Alright, I wanted to leave the outer panel off so that you can see this is indeed the connector that we replaced. However, that might make it a little awkward because I don't know what kind of torque this fan has. So when it kicks on, maybe my hand will go spinning. We'll see. Anyways, okay, let's hit the power and see. There we go. So we have a fan.